Okay, let's jump right in. Reading isn't just about staring at words on a page, right? It's literally about unlocking the real world around you. Today, we're unpacking a really powerful concept from our source material, connecting texts to the world and word. If you've ever felt like the books you read are just stuck in their own little bubbles, completely disconnected from your actual life, well, this explainer is going to change how you view reading. We're going to see exactly how to bridge that gap between the printed page and the planet we actually live on. Let's start with a quick question to see if you already use this cognitive framework without even knowing it. Have you ever read a fictional story, maybe about a society facing some massive crisis, and suddenly thought to yourself, wait a minute, isn't this happening in the news right now? That striking moment of déjà vu where art perfectly mirrors reality? Yeah, that is a text-to-world connection. Moving into Section 1, the power of connection. Upgrading from a passive reader to an active citizen. So at its core, a text-to-world connection is the act of linking the situations, themes, or conflicts in a text directly to historical events, current news, or major global issues. It basically means you aren't just looking at the characters' isolated problems anymore. Instead, you're identifying those universal human challenges hidden within the narrative and actually mapping them onto our actual world.
Which brings us to Section 2, why connections actually matter, bringing dead words to life.
You know, our source text frames this pursuit of knowledge using some ancient wisdom from Proverbs 15:14. The discerning heart seeks knowledge. Notice the action word there, seeks. A truly discerning and understanding heart doesn't just sit around waiting to be spoon-fed facts. No, it actively hunts for deeper meaning, basically turning every book or article into a treasure map for understanding life. And making these connections absolutely transforms you into an informed and thoughtful citizen. Rather than just memorizing a bunch of sterile facts, you learn to apply deep literary lessons directly to your own life. This is huge because it guides your personal decisions and sparks much deeper, much more meaningful conversations with the people around you. You're not just talking about a book anymore. You're talking about life itself. Let's get practical with Section 3, how to make connections, linking the page to the planet. Whenever you read, you can actually use a highly effective 3-step framework. First, identify the core situation, theme, or conflict in the text. Just strip away the character names and look at the bare bones. Second, take a pause and ask yourself, what does this connect to in the world today, or even in the past? And third, always verify. Use reliable sources to back up your connections to make absolutely sure you truly understand the real-world event. Let's dive into how this looks in practice. Say you're reading a fictional novel set during World War II. You can make a really powerful connection by linking the events in that book directly to actual historical accounts of the D-Day invasion. Suddenly, the history books and the fiction novel are working together, completely deepening your understanding of both. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. You can definitely make current event connections too. Imagine reading a dystopian short story about a society facing severe water shortages. Instead of just brushing it off as sci-fi, try linking it directly to today's actual news broadcast reporting on global drought conditions. The fiction helps you empathize with the real-world news, and the news gives some very urgent stakes to the fiction. The exact same thing applies to social issues. A play written centuries ago about inequality can perfectly reflect modern, ongoing societal discussions about fair wages. Just recognizing that the core human conflict really hasn't changed, that makes you a much more insightful observer of society today. Now, here is a really vital note derived from our source material. When you're connecting text to real-world tragedies, historical traumas, or sensitive global issues, always handle the topics with the utmost respect and accuracy. Real people's lives are involved in these worldly events, so connecting our reading to them requires a lot of maturity and care. All right, Section 4, your turn to practice, the Text-to-World Challenge. Let's walk through a quick thought experiment to get your gears turning. First, why are text-to-world connections important? Just ask yourself why this mental effort is actually vital for your brain. If you can understand the why behind becoming an active reader, you're going to be way more motivated to look for these links every single time you pick up a book. Next, try to actually connect a fictional story to a current event. Think about the absolute last movie you watched or the last book you read. Can you find an underlying theme and link it directly to something that happened in the news just this week? Honestly, it's incredible how quickly you'll find parallels once you start actively looking for them. And how do historical events deepen your understanding of a text? Well, consider how knowing the actual facts and realities of history fundamentally shifts the way you experience a fictional story set in that exact same time period. When you know the true stakes of a historical era, those characters' fictional struggles suddenly carry some very real weight.
Now, think carefully about your sources for a second. Why should you use highly reliable ones when making these connections? Because if your links are based on biased, bad, or fake information, well, your entire understanding of the world kind of collapses. Accuracy is absolutely the foundation of a discerning heart.
Finally, let's zoom out here. What is one global issue you could connect to multiple texts? I challenge you right now to pick one massive issue, maybe climate change or technological overreach, and see how many different stories, articles, and books you can connect to it. You will quickly start to see this amazing, interconnected web of human thought on a single issue. Which leads us nicely into Section 5, Education with True Wisdom, the heroesmartacademy philosophy. The core philosophy presented by the source text, the heroesmartacademy, is that education without morality will hurt. They pose a really compelling question. What's the point of being exceptionally educated and great at making analytical connections if you just continue making bad choices that end up hurting yourself and others? According to their framework, knowledge all by itself just isn't enough. It has to be guided by a strong moral compass.
The source text actually ties this idea directly to Scripture, noting that Romans 8:6-7 promises peace of mind to those who keep their minds spiritual. By their philosophy, intertwining biblical morality with your education ensures you aren't just gaining sterile facts. Instead, you gain that profound peace of mind that comes from true spiritual wisdom. You're building an intellect that heals rather than hurts.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder. You have the education. You now know exactly how to make deep, meaningful text-to-world connections. But remember, knowledge is simply a tool. Now, what choices are you going to make with your wisdom? Keep reading, keep connecting, and above all, keep seeking true wisdom.